You are in Where It's Huddle with me, Bram, with me, per usual, my master of all things video and sound, Maxime.
How's it going?
And my boy and producer, MT.
What's up, Dev Nation?
Gentlemen, great to see you. Solid episode plan. I'm fired up to move forward. But I tell you what, couple of logistical points looking backwards at our last episode before we jump into this one. And we spent so much time talking about Kuminga. It's really been the only topic that we've talked about on the show, that if you have a conversation with a Warriors fan right now, that's what'll come up. And so I don't want to spend too much time on JK, but there was a question I left on my outline last week whose answer I was kind of excited to see. So let's do that one real fast. So last week we talked about, there's rumors at least linking Josh Giddey and the Warriors to Golden State. The suggestion would be that one of the emergency valves here, if they just can't work shit out with JK, it's a trade. You trade out JK in a sign and trade move, bring in Josh Giddey. And the practical reality of the money, at least what the article suggests, is that that would include Moses too, either Moses or Pods. So I'll assume it's Moses, right? Question is this. If you had to pick who you'd want on the roster next year, would you prefer Josh Giddey or JK and Moses Moody?
JK and Moody. I mean, it's who knows what frame of mind and mind state JK will be in after all of this, but assuming he's professional and plays, Moody was hurt last season when he was playing well and shooting well, and then he stopped, and we were just like, oh, Moses is terrible now. And it turns out he had an injury that required surgery. So I think he can get his form back. And at that point, him and JK are too valuable to give up for a single Josh Giddey.
Will make you the tiebreaker here, Maxime, because I'm on the other side of the ball. Although I will say about Moses, you're completely right. It's a left wrist injury, right? And what we found out is that he was hurt. And as the playoffs were going, there was never a moment where I was like, what the hell is wrong with Moody? I was just too focused on everything else. But it was one of those things where then you looked at the numbers afterwards and you're like, holy shit, he completely disappeared. Like he did absolutely not. But there's explanations for it. And I do think he's going to have a big year. My analysis is similar to yours, MT. And really it's the baggage, dude. You know, if I was guaranteed for JK to come back, willing to take the role, off he goes, because we need youth and athleticism, it'd be a much harder thing for me, much harder. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think this is going to be a shit show. I think he's going to be pissy in the fucking locker room. And so for as long as that's true, would I prefer Giddey? I would. And I'll give you some on the floor stuff too. I like that Giddey doesn't play the same position as our second best player, which JK does. And I like that Steph can play off ball, you know? And so theoretically you bring in Giddey, you could play them all together. And he seems to have the kind of basketball IQ where he would fit right into this offense, you know, make the right plays, make the cut. I mean, like all of that stuff, being able to read and react. So it sucks ass that we're having this conversation for all the fucking reasons we've already talked about. We don't have to go back into that, but I would go Giddey over those two. Maxime, break the tie.
You know, that weird ass expression, like one in the hand is worth two in the bush. This idea of like what you've already got is better than what you might be able to find if you went foraging for more birds or whatever the fuck it is that you have in your hand. The problem here is like, what if that one thing that's in your hand is literally biting your hand? And it's like, okay, well then, I'd rather not be bloody. I in the case of Kuminga, right, is how much is he going to actually be a locker room cancer in the season going forward if this is how he's playing it in the offseason when he's not even around? So then to me, if we're saying, okay, obviously we would rather have Giddey than Kuminga, it's not a perfect comparison, but to me, then it comes down to the question of would we rather have Moses Moody or Josh Giddey on the squad? If Kuminga's being a net negative for us, then maybe Moody balances that back out to zero. I don't know. Overall, I think to your point, Giddey is a little bit more of a floor raiser in the way that the Steve Kerr likes a player to be, right? Can be more of a facilitator. Like you said, sort of fits into the offense at a position of need much more than Jonathan Kuminga does. And I think could be somebody that can be a part of lineups when Steph is off the floor to keep us from sinking down too far low. So I am generally saying Giddey, but I think the general point that I'm trying to make is that Moody is not as much of a net negative as we like to think he is, we know that he's a great locker room presence. And I think it would be a pretty big hit overall to morale, not just for the locker room to say, oh, Moses Moody is gone, but also to say, hey, this like the 7th and the 14th picks from the same draft, right? After we already let Wiseman, our number 2 pick, walk out the door, it would really sort of throw the whole idea of the 2 timelines thing completely out the window, and be sort of a difficult pill to swallow. But overall, I'm breaking the tie and saying we go for Giddey.
I like the take, but if I'm being honest with you, I got distracted because when you first fired off, what's that weird ass saying? I got really excited to see what it was going to be. And then the fucking 1 in a hand, 2 in the bush. Isn't that crazy? I thought for sure.
I don't think that's a crazy
I don't know. I know what
I think
you
you just
going to say.
admitted that you're hella old, man.
I'm not telling you that it's a current saying. I'm just don't vision that like a fucking crazy ass saying. And I have a certain level of expectation when you use the phrase crazy. So that's what it was. The only follow-up I have for Moody, did you guys see he recently gave an interview about Steph and said, look, I'm not even going to talk about his shooting. We all know who the hell that is. What I want to highlight is that he is a gangster, his word. And when asked what that meant, he said that the confidence level of who he is when he steps on the floor is fucking wild. He also added, and I don't even remember what the triggering question was, but that one of his favorite sayings is 1 in the hand is better than 2 in the bush. He says he uses it all the time. So I don't do with that as you will.
That's why it'd be so hard to lose him from the locker room. Those are just it's a really great saying that needs to get put back into the zeitgeist.
Oh, it's there.
It's interesting that you're both wrong too, but you can take that stance that Giddey's right. I think the thing you're leaving out of your analysis and why I'm keeping JK and Moody, JK situation, is defense. Defense is more important for us in our side and those role players than it is offense. And I'm not sold on Josh Giddey's defense. Just looking up his rating, he's not rated as high as Moses Moody is, and probably wouldn't be as high as Kuminga either. But I think we need more help on the defensive side and to keep that at a level post Jimmy Butler trade like it was. So, 1 in the bush, 2 in the hand.
I don't mean JK right now is currently thinking, what sounds much better than taking $25 million to go play for Golden State, taking $7 million because fuck them. Like that's like that is, paraphrase. That's exactly what he's thinking right now. And he's surrounded by people who are not in their head. Like, yep, fuck them. Absolutely. Don't even consider it. You should go to Sacramento, they're telling him. I would prefer be in fucking Phoenix that has no future at all. That's the dude who you guys are currently saying maybe we should keep here. If that's the opinion here, it's not about fucking defensive net rating. This guy wants out. Let him out. But I will not take your silence as dissent. But I also promise this was not going to be a JK episode. So we'll jump in this rabbit hole, I'm sure, again. Logistics. Looking back, number 2, we got an email, and it's actually a positive one. So we get positive feedback frequently. It's not quite as entertaining to read into this mic as negative feedback is, but we really appreciate it. And this one was worth throwing out there because they talked about our snitch conversation. And it makes me feel better because he says that everybody would snitch. So this gentleman, whose name I won't share, wrote in, had some nice things to say about the show, and then added this quote. Anyway, just wanted to share a story about snitching and how everyone, all caps by the way, everyone would snitch. Senior year of high school, my friends put together a nighttime scavenger hunt. Because we were young and idiotic, the things on there were stupidly illegal. Out-of-state license plate, stop sign, an American flag taken from a flagpole. There was a fucking tombstone on that list. Long story short, my team gets caught. The police bring us in, and we thought, we'll just explain to them. It's teenage hijinks. They'll pat us on the back and let us go. That is not what happened, obviously. We were put in a cell. They told us we were committing felonies and asked where everyone was supposed to meet up. I caved before we even finished the sentence. Needless to say, the rest of the scavenger groups were not pleased with us, but were forgiven when our only punishment was a one-day, ironically named, theft school. So props to this dude for really underlining that fools would snitch regardless, even if it's just on a scavenger hunt. I don't know, to make you feel better about our collective opinions last week or what?
There were felonies on the line. What are you talking about? Just a normal scavenger hunt. This is some serious shit. I'd be terrified.
Well, Who knows if he caved in there? when they're like, where are you guys going to meet? And he's like, before I tell you that, first, let me tell you that we unearthed a tombstone. It's right over there. You know, like if it was like a caved panic, because I could see you doing that. Like you're just starting to answer a bunch of fucking questions they didn't even ask you. Like Goonies, you know, like you like, well, when I was 8, I also stole a newspaper or some shit like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's when felonies are on the line, that's exactly what Arenas is facing. That's why he's like, oh, Igor is definitely bringing felonies around with all these charges. So he was snitching. I think it makes sense when it's interesting that would be kind of the approach that the police would bring. And like, I don't know. Those don't seem like felonies, but it's like maybe they're just trying to teach him a lesson.
I'm sure they were like, you know what I don't want to do? Any paperwork on a fucking scavenger hunt. You know, like how I'm the idea of theft school sounds like they just made that shit up. Like, okay, you guys have to go sit in this fucking room for 5 hours, dude. It's called theft school. And you make sure that nobody leaves at all. I'll wrap this portion up with a choose your own adventure, boys. So to no one's surprise, I have experience in both kind of shady scavenger hunts and theft school. Although the latter is kind of tangential, but I mean, experience with it. So up to you. If you wanted to hear one of those two, my experience in theft school or scavenger hunts, which would you prefer?
I need a definition on what theft school is.
Yeah, I don't need a definition. I need the story.
Boom, theft school it is. So I mean, not to really anyone's surprise, I had a pretty checkered driving history. I decided that I would break every rule of the road before I turned like 13. My first car crash came, in fact, at 13. Wow. And I didn't learn my lesson. It took me a while ultimately to learn it. And so I had some infractions along the way. And at one point I had to go to a traffic school that was there all day. And I know now, in fact, I may have known then, that the traffic school, there was 3 things in this building. Downstairs was a giant Safeway. Upstairs were these classrooms, and there was 2 of them. And at the same time that I was in my driver's school, there was a class for people who had been caught stealing. You know, so I don't know if it was called theft school, but I met, you know, like that, they had to go in there and they had to serve their time in this fucking class. And, you know, who knows? Maybe it was my boy from the scavenger hunt. I don't know who was in the theft school. But the 2 classes took lunch at the same time. And the easiest move would just be go downstairs and hit the Safeway because they had that deli. And so we would walk around. And my assumption is that the Safeway people must have had a meeting and told them, look, there's a bunch of fucking juvenile delinquents who are having a class above us who are known for shoplifting. So like around 12 o'clock, we need to be hella close and aware of this. So I go down, I'm shopping. And I had like 6 people fucking following me around the store because they thought I was at the theft school. And I felt like I had to turn around like, oh, no, like I'm the person, you don't want to trust me with your keys, like 100%, but I'm not going to steal these ho-hos. You know, like I'm going to pay for this fucking sandwich too. Like let's just move on. So there's my theft school story.
Nice. As a frequent passenger in your vehicles at said age, when I was a little younger, I can confirm those were scary moments. Looking back on them now, at the time it was fine, but now looking back, I was like, oh man, that was intense driving at 14 years old.
I don't mind fucking telling you that I almost said to open it up. I almost said, as Marcus can attest to, and then I thought, no, I don't want to encourage any participation here. So here we are nonetheless. And I can also tell you, Maxine, when we were driving around, I'd like do some, I mean, it was shady. I would do something that I thought made me look cool. And I'd look over to the passenger seat to Marcus, and he was not giving me a like good job. It was like he looked like he was about to die from fucking stress. Like even then, and justifiably, I don't mind telling you, like justifiably, he had a very scared look on his fucking face.
Watch how fast I can take this blind turn.
Yeah. I had at that time, although this is no longer 13, like 16, 17. My dog's name was Boomer, and I would ride around with him. And I remember taking a turn so damn fast that Boomer like fell in the backseat of my car. I stopped just to make sure he was okay. He was totally fine. But in order to check in on him, I had to open my door. Boomer ran out of the car. He's like, fuck this. It's like, I'm not like, I don't know where we are or like what happens next, but I'm not riding with you any longer. And he made the right move. Like 100% he made the right move. All right. One last looking back before we move forward, just updating a previous story. Maxime is now 6'5". So congratulations, Maxime. That's really like, I don't know the secret behind your growing success, but I wish you continued growth. It's amazing.
Yeah, it was both. That was a great double entendre. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm shooting for 6-8 next week, so I'll keep you guys posted.
Might happen before the end of this podcast. To our golden questions, gentlemen. We haven't done one of these for a little while. This is our version of a mailbag. People are nice enough to write in and get us questions. This actually got both a little personal and had to do with the Warriors. Let's start with the Warriors. Quote, Steph was quoted this week as saying that he isn't that worried about the lack of moves so far because the team already has what it needs. Does the Huddle agree? So I pulled the quote he was talking about. It appears in an article from friend of the podcast, Sam Gordon. I guess Steph was speaking from his camp in Atherton. They asked him, there's no moves being made by the Warriors. What do you think? Here is the quote. Quote, it's different for sure, but my confidence is built on the identity we were able to create over the last third of the regular season last year and the playoff journey. We have a really good team. The veteran presence that we have, me, Jimmy, Draymond, we understand how to prepare through that uncertainty and hit the ground running in training camp, knowing we should have some movement by then, but you control what you can control. And then I'll add, because the article did, that since they added Butler, the Warriors went 23 of 31. We've talked about how they were top 5 on both sides. We haven't talked about the record. So I'm not going to jump right to, do you agree? Will they be fine? Let's break it up into certain questions. And let's start this way. Does hearing Steph say that, because we've been pretty angsty about them not doing any moves, does hearing SC30, the GOAT, say, well, I'm not that worried, make you feel any better about the offseason so far?
I'd say it makes you feel really good about being a podcaster. Evidently, he could do this too, because that was exactly our take. So we're all doing this together. Thank you, Steph. I think, because I think that's the right answer, but it's also the party line, right? I think it's clear that everybody sat down at some point around the end of the season, or maybe at some point during this offseason, and said, hey, Shams has said that this is going to be the spiciest offseason of all time, and don't think that that's going to come from Golden State. We're probably going to be sitting pat. There's reasons for that. And I think everybody got on board, and Steph is clearly on board from day one with all that Golden State is saying. So it's a little bit hard for me with anything that Steph says to feel like, oh, he's really speaking from his heart. And right. I'm more saying he's speaking on behalf of the organization. So what that really says to me is like, yeah, we're wise to not be spending a bunch of energy fretting over whether or not we're going to be making moves. Steph is really signaling here that the moves were made at the trade deadline last year.
Well, and I think there's a nugget in here that suggests to me that what we've been assuming is also true, that the Horford thing is done, that the Melton thing is done, that there are moves, that they just have to wait. Because here's the line, right? This is from that second part. We understand how to prepare through the uncertainty and hit the ground running in training camp, knowing that we should have some movement by then, and some that what his comment isn't like, oh, we're fine. His comment seems to be, look, there's going to be moves, and they'll happen before training camp, and then we'll be fine. What do you think, MT?
Yeah, I'm the same as you. I think he's saying the quiet part out loud and reading between the lines. It's like the moves are going to happen. It sounds like Horford and Melton are lined up, which is reassuring to kind of hear and hope for. I think if that happens and you bring back a GP2 and the rest of the team is healthy, like Steph was hurt, but Jimmy Butler was also hurt in the playoffs too. When he landed, awkwardly against Houston, like he was never quite the same. So I think running it back is a smart strategy, and we don't have to make a ton of big moves. We just have to make some on the edges. And if those are waiting in the wings until JK happens, then I think Steph is right.
Maxime, do you think Curry believes this? I heard what the way that you just described that was either he's parroting the team's line, or, it's just media savvy that he knows coming out here and being like, oh, we are fucked is not anything that, someone with his media trainings is going to say. So you hear that quote. Do you think he believes it? We'll never know unless, Steph appears here out of nowhere. But yeah, what's your perception?
I think anybody that's as hyper competitive as Steph is sort of like a Jekyll and Hyde inside of him. I think one part of him believes it because he believes in himself so completely, and probably Jimmy and Draymond too, right? That they can do absolutely anything. And I think there's another side of him that knows that it's an 82 game season to get to the 16, right? And getting D'Anthony Melton and Al Horford would be huge if they were in their primes. These are, there's potential for a lot of injury before we even get to April. And so I think that's where the fear creeps in. It's not a question of whether or not this is a good enough team to get through a playoffs run. It absolutely is. We just saw that, but now we have a whole season before we get there. And I think that's where I would be a little bit scared if I were Steph.
I think the context of what he's saying, right? I think this might have been a defensive response. And I think because of the setting of it, I do think he meant it. He's the petty king. We've heard that 1,000 times. When they were questioning him on the lead up to 22, he didn't say shit. And then when they won, he made it clear that he knew everything. So like in this setting, they ask him, look, 29 teams have made a move. You guys haven't. What's up? That he would say, we're fine. We're fine. Do I think he believed that as he said it? Yeah. If he's just at the house, and he's just talking to himself, he's talking to a friend, and he brings up the topic, and he's trying to talk about, well, where do we stand with OKC? Like, do we have a real title shot? Do I think that this is where he'd start? Wow, we're fine. Veteran presence, no problem. Maybe not. I think he might lean on they need more people. But yes, I think setting makes a difference. Have you guys ever said anything in a public setting you didn't believe? Like in here, Steph, it's part of his job. You got to, you take the mic and you throw out confidence, even if you don't have it. We're not in public jobs, there's nothing that necessarily would have been triggered. Here, I'll go first to give you guys time to think. Nothing professionally and nothing in any like large public setting. The closest I've gotten is told people they've done a great job on a speech when I thought their speeches sucked ass. So like a best man speech or like at some conference, like something like that. And I'll be in a group of people and I'm like, hey, good job. And internally I'm like B-, like if at best B-.
I don't think I have enough public speaking opportunities. I'm trying to think of, I don't know. Maybe this podcast, I half-heartedly believed that the Warriors would win the championship in 7 against
there you go.
Does that count?
It does. Yeah, I'll 100% take that. That was made to a few thousand people. That definitely counts.
Okay, cool. Shout out to everybody listening. That was mine.
He lied to you guys. That's what he's telling you.
Which, of course, I would never do, which is why I have no examples.
Never have.
Yeah, no.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
To our last golden question, and it deals with the Valkyries, who we haven't really dug into quite yet, and probably should. I mean, they're speeding towards the playoffs here, and I think are going to be. They might be more situated for success over the next 10 years than the Golden State Warriors are, but that's a conversational topic for a different podcast. Let's talk about this one. Here's the question. Quote, the Valkyries announced their mascot this week. What was your first impression, and how do you feel about mascots in general? Maxine, if you got that picture, let's view it together here. So here is the mascot. I think it is a purple crow. I'm not positive about that. What's its name? Anybody know? I should have written that down.
Ooh.
It's a raven. I know that much.
Wow. Oh, nope. That's just a really great Edgar Allan Poe pun. Violet.
Yeah.
All right. Well, gentlemen, first impressions. What do we think here? You guys like this mascot? And then back up and give me a mascot take in general.
Not the biggest fan of this mascot. I think I don't understand the glasses. And my understanding was Valkyries is like a warrior, right? Like it's
mythical warrior.
Yeah, mythical warrior. So I don't know how you get Purple Raven out of that, but
you know that they're changing the name to the Purple Ravens. That's a thing.
But I also had similar questions of how Thunder made sense for the Warriors too. So
you shut up.
But
friend of the podcast, the Deacon Fuller, may you rest in peace. You will not take shots at him.
Yeah, in general, I'm only a fan of mascots if they're an animal and it's the real animal, like when they trot out a real lion or a real bear or something crazy like that. It's like,
wow.
Or an eagle flies in with blinders on, like all right, that's a little.
I'd like to announced to the SBCA that Marcus does not express the feelings of the Warriors Huddle, and those are his own personal animal fucking cruelty takes that I will not support in any way.
Bram, however, supports twerking purple ravens.
100%. Aside over having a fucking a real bird fly into the stadium, I'm anti that. This mascot feels like somebody just overthought it. Like I can see being the person, like they have the pitch meeting or whatever, and I'm the guy who's coming with just a straightforward idea. Like, how about we just make it a Valkyrie? Like they're named the fucking Valkyries. We have a Valkyrie as like part of the logo. What if we just have some like a real person come out dressed as a Valkyrie and like holding a sword, whatever it is, you know, and feeling like I've definitely won it. And then somebody else pitches, nope. How about we have a purple raven that's wearing glasses? And internally, I'm thinking, there's no way this way. Yeah, exactly. And then everyone's like, what a great idea. I could see like throwing my fucking notes on the table and like running out of there furious. Like, what are you talking about?
This guy gets it.
Yeah, it's like I don't understand it at all. I might have to quit my my position. So I mean, not a big fan. And if I'm giving them specific feedback, the way they unrolled this, I wasn't a big fan. Last week they showed a picture on social media of an egg and said something's coming. And then when they actually announced the mascot itself, the video that the Valkyries released was a point of view video, a POV video. And it was something emerging from the egg and then seeing the game. But that video didn't show what the mascot looked like. And so I was sitting there watching with my kid, and she asked me, where is the mascot in the video? I had no answer. I still don't know. That picture is the first time I saw it. So I didn't like the mascot and didn't like their rollout video. Mascots in general, I used to be super anti. You know, like if you'd asked me when I was like beneath 35, not only would I have told you fuck them, I would have given you like a really heated, I don't even know why they exist opinion at all. No, I don't really care. Sure, you know, have mascot. I'm kind of on the fence. It doesn't bother me one way or the
other. So I'm just sitting here poking around. Turns out that ravens are known as the Valkyries' counterparts in Norse mythology and are considered the guardians of good fortune. So there is a little bit of a tie-in there. However, the explanation that is on multiple CBS, on Yahoo, for why Violet wears glasses is because she is nearsighted. So they thought real hard about the why on the animal, but
he's gonna be doing a lot of reading, a lot of like halftime reading, and let's in my stupid ass recreation of how they announced it in the pitch meeting. Let's say the guy's name is Steve. If I'd been like, fuck it, let's name it a Valkyrie, and he's like, or let's have it be a Valkyrie. He's like, you clearly don't know Norse mythology, and the deep connection. My only response would be like, fuck you, Steve. Nobody knows that connection. Like no one's rolling in there like, oh, I knew it. Like I'm way up on my Norse mythology, and now this all makes sense to me.
I think that there is like the Norse mythology gets like pretty gnarly pretty quickly, right? Everybody's killing everybody all over the place. So I think like having like a nice friendly glasses wearing raven is maybe the best case scenario here. And in general, I like mascots. I kind of, it feels like the Warriors have gone so corporate that it's like they can't have a mascot anymore. And like Violet and this whole Valkyries things harkens back to an era where it feels a little bit more like this is a community, right? There's a mascot, and like I love that energy. It feels like it's for the people, right? Like I feel like the like super branded, super corporate like people, you know, there's a production that's going on with the Golden State Warriors that I miss like Thunder running around and having it be like, okay, no shade, but like a pretty ridiculous costume with, you know, like clearly like foam muscles. It's just like all that shit just makes me smile. And I feel like it's for the kids. It just it makes me feel really good. I actually really like this mascot in general. I think it's a really dope look.
It harkens back to the time when people used the phrase "one in the hand is better than two in the bush" all the time, which I mean, we're talking.
I was just foreshadowing a bird conversation.
Here we fucking are. Decades ago. Would you guys ever want to be a mascot? So like there's categories and topics that elicit like angry opinions or like sharp opinions. This is one of them. I've asked this before. My experience has been there's only two categories of people who would be a mascot 100% for free, and people you could not pay enough to spend a single day in that suit. Like, nope, I am hard out. Which one are you gentlemen?
Hard out.
Yeah. hard out, not even a question.
Clean sweep. That sounds like an absolute nightmare. Feels like it'd be hella hot.
Yes.
I don't really like to dance, dude. Like, yeah, I'm like fairly hard. Although if I did get to read at halftime through glasses that helped me through nearsightedness, then maybe that would speak to me.
Exactly. But you have to twerk while you're reading. So
okay, that would be the problem. Would immediately be the problem. I'm fighting the urge to tell you a story about how I got volunteered for a street hip hop show at the Laurel Street Fair over this last weekend. But instead, I'll leave it as a tease for next week. To be continued. With that in mind, you guys, please check out our YouTube channel. I think this one's going to go up there if you want to see our smiling faces or all of the work that has been done. Okay, can't go too far here. A message from a friend of the podcast, Amy. Quote, I got in a car accident at 13 also. Although my 14-year-old friend was driving, I had to go to driving school. Amy, I mean, we are soulmates. Although
I think you meant theft school, Amy.
Yeah, and I can tell you, you did not get in a car accident because you were not driving. You were in a car when somebody else got into the car accident. But good for you. And I hope that you did not snitch in that scenario. We all know what we would have done. Okay, back to the close. If you want to get us a golden question, you want to let us know we did a good job, bad job, any job. If you want to tell us about your own criminal past, you can send an email to
huddle@warriorshuddle.com.
Do you think Amy's friend was wearing their nearsighted glasses when they were driving?
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, do you think the friend was the Raven? Who knows? Yeah, it would definitely explain why the accident happened. All right, with that in mind, go Warriors. Hopefully, we'll see you soon.